Hello and welcome to Sales Secrets with your host, Brandon Bornancin. Our intention for the show is to give you the secrets to success from our newest guest, Dan Martell. Dan is an entrepreneur, angel investor, thought leader, author of the newest book, Buy Back Your Time, and he's a serial SaaS sales coach with his SaaS coaching company. Why I like Dan, he founded and sold Clarity to a local Columbus company in my backyard, which I'm sure we'll get into. But today is all about buy back your time. I don't know about you, audience tuning in. I need more time. I need more money. And I want more of all of it. So I'm excited to learn the secrets with Buy Back Your Time, Dan Martell's newest book. Dan, welcome to the show today.
Brandon, thanks for having me, man. It's actually fun because I have a ton of sales specific examples for your audience. And like the book and the mission I'm on is to literally help, top level professionals and CEOs and entrepreneurs just find a different gear, like get more leverage with their time, trade, become a better time trader, and avoid what I call hitting the pain line. Because if you hit that pain line, most people retreat. They do not push through it. Entrepreneurs will not grow through pain. And I would love to share that message with the world. And I just appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one of the things that you helped me buy back some of my time was you were one of the bigger influences in me helping quit alcohol, get rid of the alcohol deal. I know like you're pretty passionate about talking about how that bought you a lot of time and success. There are a lot of things, but for the people that don't know you, can you share your origin story? This is a guy that went to jail. He's got a crazy origin story. Let's hear it.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a really kind of challenging environment. My mom was an alcoholic. My dad was in sales, traveling, gone most weekdays, very rarely at home, second oldest of four. And I just went through a ton of different challenges as a kid. I got diagnosed with ADHD when I was 11. I had a pretty severe anger issue, a lot of therapy, a lot of, trauma as a kid, and ended up in the system, in and out. I got turned on to drugs when I was 13, became pretty hardcore addict, started buying and selling, and just like my life spiraled out of control, where I found myself high and drunk in a stolen car in a high-speed chase. And I told myself, before I stole the car, that if the cops stopped me, I was going to pull the gun I had in my handbag sitting next to me and let them take my life. And that's kind of what happened. I ended up getting in a high-speed chase, saw an open garage door, tried to like hide in the garage, came into the driveway with way too much speed and just smashed into the side of the house, and like airbags went off. I wasn't even wearing a seatbelt. And when I went for the gun, somebody was looking out for me because it got stuck, and I was pulling on it. And eventually the police just like opened the door and grabbed me and like, drug me across the line. I mean, the truth is my feet didn't touch the ground. And I woke up sober the next day in a jail cell in a small town in Eastern Canada, wondering what my life was going to look like. And I ended up getting sentenced to almost 2 years due to the severity of my crime. I ended up in an adult prison. Did about 6 months there.
Sentenced to the
yeah, I was 17. Went to the adult prison because they had 2 cell blocks dedicated to juveniles with more severe crimes. Like it wasn't juvenile detention. It was kind of, it'd been my second time I'd been to jail. I was there a year prior, and stayed out of trouble. Ended up, getting released after 6 months to a therapeutic community to finish off my sentence, a place called Portage. And it was really there where I like really got to know what made me tick. I mean, it was, like therapy 24/7, feeling management meetings, and like sharing my personal story and understanding where my anger came from, and serenity prayer. And a lot of it was based on the 12 steps. And over 11 months of like, rebuilding my self-worth and the trust I'd lost with my family, and just like the feelings of like helplessness and like just hopeful about a future, like nothing grand, like just very simple. I was literally at the end of the program helping Rick, the maintenance guy, clean out one of the cabins on premises because it was built on an old church camp. And in one of the rooms, I found this old 486 computer and a yellow book of Java programming sitting next to it. And I just opened up the book and followed the instructions of chapter 1. And within 20 minutes, I got the computer to say, "Hello world." And I thought, man, maybe I'm a genius. Like, I got this computer to print something out, and I'd never touched a computer. And
were you teaching the programming thing in jail, or was this once you got out?
no, this is in rehab. I literally
in rehab. Wow.
never touched a computer in my life. And, and just found this yellow book and just followed it. And what's crazy is that, like, two things became true. Like, I became obsessed with writing code for whatever reason. I just like found a thing that I was like abnormally good at, and that became my new obsession, kind of filled that addictive side of my personality with something fairly positive. And my dad would always joke, if I could just find something I was passionate about that wasn't illegal, he thought I'd do pretty good. Turns out he was kind of right. And then, business and entrepreneurship, which I'd always been entrepreneurial. I just was never anything legal. So once I discovered, wrong vehicle, I found something that was good for me. That became almost like this forcing function into a personal development program. I mean, the truth is like, business is a reflection of you. And if you want to be more successful in business, you got to be better. And it becomes this question of like, who do I need to become to achieve that new level of success? And I was always ambitious. And that was it. It was like writing code. It was 97. And when I got out, I discovered this little thing called the internet. And since then, I've built 5 software companies, exited 3. 2 were venture backed out of San Francisco. I've invested in 50 plus companies as an angel investor. Today, I run SaaS Academy, which is the largest coaching company for CEOs that are software founders. And then High Speed Ventures, which is my essentially like private family office where we invest in companies and buy companies. And that's kind of what I focus my time on. And then I spend a lot of time with at-risk youth. Last Friday I was speaking to a group. I do stuff pretty much every Friday afternoon is kind of like where I dedicate my time and my own capital, supporting different programs around my city and speaking to kids about my journey and my truth, and hopefully inspiring them to decide to go down the route of entrepreneurship. Because the truth is they're like more entrepreneurial than most people start businesses. They just don't know it, right? They've got all these native skills of hustling and the gift of gab and negotiating and like really funny business skills they don't realize they have that would just prove incredible if they had a mentor and a guide.
That's awesome. And talk to me about the 3 companies. Like what was the first one, second one, third one? What'd you get it to? What'd you sell it for?
Well, there were, So there was 5 companies. The first 2 were failures. Like I always tell that because like I just started when I was 17. So I started, my first company is called maritimevacation.ca. So it was a Canadian VRBO back in the day, 98, 99. And I learned a lot, built it, didn't know how to build a team. The guy that owned atthecottage.com had a bigger vision. He ended up taking all my customers, but it was still cool. Like it was like, might've made 30 or 40 grand, but I was 17. And like, I remember the first time somebody wrote me a check that was a stranger and sent it to me, like because of the internet. Like that was like, okay, if I did it once, maybe I can do it 10,000 times, 100,000 times. And that was like subscription as a service, and SaaS was like the beginning there. And then I did a hosting company because I was building all these different apps for people and websites. So I like decided I wanted to own my own hosting. Now I spent a lot of time in server rooms, and then we ended up getting a bank as a customer, and that was way too big, too fast. And I was 19, 20. I didn't know what I was doing. Almost, got sued because their site went down. Turns out banks don't like having their sites go down. And it was just like a learning journey. And it took me another 4 years. I was 24 when I started my third company, Spheric Technologies. And we were an enterprise portal software. We built like these integration points with existing portal technology. And then we were kind of doing services on top of that. And that was when I hired a business coach. I hired an E-Myth coach named Bob. I read the book, The E-Myth. Prior to that, I'd never read a business book, which is crazy. I read about 50 software books, but never a business book. And hired a coach and just did the work. I showed up. I began with the end in mind. I started reading all the classics. And that company ended up making my first million when I was 27, like cash in the bank. I remember my accountant called me up and telling me, it's like, well, here's something cool. I was like, what? He's like, you have $1 million in cash and retained earnings. I was like, is that good? He's like, yeah, Dan, that's good. I'm like, I was so like working 100-hour weeks, focused on building a business. And then about a year after that, we got acquired by a company called Function One. That's when I became, relatively wealthy, multiple single digit millions, but I didn't have any co-founders. Like it was just my own thing. I bootstrapped it from the beginning and then decided to, I think I lasted like 3 months.
How long did that take? So
4 years
so you built it from
2004
nothing
to 2008. Yeah.
What'd you grow? Like, was it ARR or was it like project fees?
Yeah. No, there was a bit of both. We were about, I think, 3.2 million when we exited.
Cool.
And yeah, like, I mean, I was 28, so it was kind of crazy. I literally retired. I built a house. I built this stupid ass house. It was like 5,000 square feet and 2 bedrooms, like dumb. Cause yeah, like, cause I was like, I'm never going to have more than one friend to visit. And it was like, it was all party space. I got my brother to build it for me. And then I like bought a boat and I was, like, it was literally just party town, Canada for a while. Yeah. And then I like kind of had this moment where I was like, if I don't get out of my small town, even though we had customers at the time all across Canada or US, I just knew I would like wake up one day and be like, okay, you're a big fish in a small pond, like go to the valley. And I just like got on a plane, no visa, no nothing, and just moved to San Francisco and like showed up, didn't know a soul, and started that journey. I ended up taking kind of like a year off sabbatical and just, like trying to be helpful. That's how I built my network. A lot of people know me today, you always comment like, wow, it seems like, everybody in tech. It's just because I spent a year just adding value. I didn't have to work. I didn't even charge people. I would literally come in for these 2-week growth sprints with different startups. And, I met like Joe and Brian from Airbnb and Drew from Dropbox, and Travis from Uber was not only became a friend and a mentor, but he was an investor in my company Flowtown that I eventually started.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was the first company where I was like, because I remember when I moved to San Francisco, I thought to myself, if I, in 10 years, I gave myself 10 years to like go there, understand how this whole like Silicon Valley venture world works. And if I raise, money and then build a company and exit it, like that would be a pretty cool goal, right? Like I'd already sold a company, but I wanted to do it in like the best of the best. And we ended up doing it with Flowtown. I took a year sabbatical, but I kind of like seeded this idea with like, I had a full-time CTO working for me, just building different ideas. And that became the basis of Flowtown. We ended up raising almost $1 million in funding, and then just grew that over 2.5 years and got acquired by a company called Demand Force that got right after they bought us, they sold for 550 to Intuit. Wow. So it was kind of this crazy ride. And this was like 2009, 2010. And then I literally lasted 3 months at the acquirer at Demand Force, and then came up with this crazy idea.
Did you make a lot of money at the Flowtown?
I did, but it didn't change my life. And I'll tell you why. Like I had already made my money in the first company. And like, there's a certain level, unless you want to buy a private jet, like your life doesn't change a whole lot, right? Like that's the only thing that I probably didn't have that I didn't really want to buy, but I could have, and like, that would have maybe changed my life, but I charter a lot now. So it's like, it's not, other than that, there was
$1 million burn minimum a year.
Yeah. Like one of my mentors, he told me, he said, nothing will stress your cash flow like private aviation. Yeah. And he's absolutely right. And it really just depends. Like I actually don't travel that much, so it doesn't make sense. Like, if you're in private equity and you're looking at deals all the time and you're like jetting to different cities, it makes sense.
Like if you're doing 200 hours, no brainer, get it.
Yes.
And you still have to burn, like, because buying the plane, well, now with inflation, it's expensive, but it's crazy how like,
it's not the capital costs up front. It's the burn of pilots and insurance and fuel and like regional jets versus national jets versus internet. Like, I mean, you'll still fly commercial if you got to go, like if I'm going, Seattle to Florida, I'm not going to fly private and spend, $75,000 when I can just jump on a commercial flight and fly business or, first class. So it's like
$400.
It's like so interesting. But so, I made a lot of money. What I'm most proud of like Flowtown's exit is I made Ethan, my co-founder, a lot of money. Like he was about 5 years younger than me. And, like it was a meaningful outcome for him to like changed his whole like family's life. I mean, the truth was, is like, you know, he helped his parents and all these things. And we did this really cool thing after we exited the company that a lot of people don't know, is we actually gave 1% of our future companies to each other. Cause we knew, like, I started Clarity and like went down that path, and he stayed at the Acquire for a year. So I literally got 1% of his company. It's called Digit.co. So I don't know if you ever heard of Digit, but it's like this auto saving app for your bank account. You like connect it and it would like find money and save. They just sold for 350 million. So
wow,
game on. Yeah. And then same thing with Clarity.
You
I
got
gave 1% of
that
Clarity.
deal? Or probably there was some dilution there with investors.
Yeah, we only did one round. I mean, this is the thing I've learned is like, there's two great times to sell a company. One is within the first 24 months, because there's a disproportionate amount of equity retained by the founding team to the exit amount you could achieve, versus going, if you wait anytime after that, then it's usually another 7 to 8 years on average before the business builds up value and the exit is in the multiple 9 figures level for you to actually net out the same. So like, I didn't mean to do it. It's just the momentum. And like when I sold to Will at startups.com, we actually had
what was your ARR of the Flowtime deal? Flowtune.
Flowtown, we were only about 1.5 million, I think, when we exited. But it was a strategic acquisition.
What was the type of
it was incredible. Yeah, it was never public, but it was like, it was incredible for the size. And there's a whole backstory. We actually got shut down halfway through building the company. So like we built on top of a bunch of APIs. One of them was Facebook's API. And like probably 13 months into building the company, we like had to shut down the product, rebuild the product, and then like go after a completely different market. We went after an enterprise customer doing essentially gift marketing. So like using social media to like gift samples to customers and like verify their customers. It's hard to explain, but essentially that whole journey happened in a 2.5 year period. Right.
Yeah. I remember when Facebook, LinkedIn, all those guys, they shut down the public open APIs like out of nowhere. And it
it was because there was a bunch of security issues. Like there was a bunch of games that would go viral and steal everybody's data. So there's a lot of like bad actors that force these social platforms to change the terms of service in their APIs, their public APIs, to become private. And it was just, a good lesson in business. I've learned since then, never build on top of somebody else's APIs. But those were like, and then the Clarity was a big vision, and that was awesome to execute.
So Clarity was the one that I was aware of. Like,
we had 50,000 experts like yourself that were on the platform that were available for calls. I mean, it was this crazy idea I had. I kind of built this like tool for managing my calls. Like that's literally where it started. Clarity was a utility for me managing inbound requests on my time. I built this like mobile interface, and it would just create a queue of calls. And then I was showing it to Eric Reese one day, and he's like, can I use this? Like, can I have an account? And then I can like have people register to like call me, or I'll call them. And because it took care of like the callback, and it would automate it. You could literally drive and hit start calls, and it would just cycle through everybody.
So cool.
And then he goes, it'd be cool if I could charge for my time and then, donate that money to charity. And that was like that was when the light bulb went off. And I just thought, like, every social media influencer has an audience. They obviously follow the person because they think what they're sharing is valid and useful and interesting. So if you could make them available in a way that was convenient for them, meaning like I would do all my calls when I was walking in between meetings or driving down the valley, or, where I had a long commute, and it cost me nothing to do. I got to talk to cool people, and I made money for charity, and a lot of people ended up using it.
So Clarity is a marketplace that connects people that want to talk to experts, and you pay per hour, per minute, per half hour, whatever time you select. And then you get to transact. Like, so if you wanted to hire Dan, you'd go on Clarity. Hey, I want Dan's advice. His rate is $100 an hour. I need 30 minutes. I'll pay him $50.
Yep.
And like, this didn't exist. This didn't exist back then. So I remember as a kid, as an entrepreneur, when I was 18, I'm like, fuck, like, I don't have all the answers. I need more answers. Came across Clarity, and I got on it to pay these experts to give me advice. It was awesome. And then you ended up, how long did you build it for? What did it scale to?
2 years.
2 years. And then you sold it to Will.
Yeah. And literally, if you talk to Will today, it continues to move forward and grow a little bit. It's crazy. Like, we built this marketplace that had true kind of like momentum in the dynamics of it, the way we built our Clarity Answers feature, and it's just the way we do the matchmaking and even the search technology we built. Like, it was pretty awesome. I mean, marketplaces are like having twins. And yeah, we did hundreds of thousands of calls in a 2-year period. And the challenge was, and the reason why I exited the company was, it turns out, unfortunately, that the number of people that will pay for advice is a lot smaller than I thought. So like literally my total addressable market that I was running through the math in my head was, okay, so how many people have social media accounts? How many people those are like business experts? You know, I thought of like SlideShare and Twitter and LinkedIn, and like, what if there was an easy way to monetize their time? It wasn't the supply side. It was actually the demand, right? If you think about it, out of 100 entrepreneurs, like 100 business owners, people that incorporate a company, maybe 15% read a book. Like, it sounds crazy, but like, because we read so many books, we just assume every person does. It's not true. Like 100 business owners. Yeah. Because
I would never have thought that. Because like entrepreneurs, like you and I are wired so hard. Like, yes, I would pay anyone in the world who's got the answers to give me the secrets so that I could accelerate. But oh my gosh, yeah,
we
totally.
Are rare.
Like 99%.
We're a rare breed.
Wouldn't even understand the value in paying for the secrets to skip the
Nope.
steps.
It goes like the way we figured it out. It was like 100 entrepreneurs, 15% read books, 5% go to events. And of the people who go to events, half of those people would, like 2.5% would pay to fast track to get the answer, to avoid. Cause like that was the alternative, is like, you see this person speaking at an event and you're like, oh, I want to go hear their opinion. And then I'm going to stand in line, ask them a question. Or you go on Clarity and you find out if they're there, and they're there. It's like, hey, I'd rather just not pay to go spend 3 days at an event and just hire the person for an hour of their time. I mean, we had an unlimited Clarity budget within Clarity for our own experts, because we would let our team. So like, if our marketing team was working on like an SEO project, they would literally call Clarity SEO experts, do a 60-minute consult, record the call with the team, and just like, yeah, it was
blowed up.
Literally, I couldn't understand. That's why it was so frustrating for me, because I'm like, I think I'm like sitting on the best kept secret in the world. And it turns out the people who valued it the most were actually hedge fund investors, because they were paying to make a disproportionate investment in a big opportunity. And it turns out that's the market that's always been there, the expert network market, like the Gershman Lehman groups and many others that literally just play matchmaker, and they'll charge $5,000 an hour to financial.
How did you get in touch with Will, by the way? Like, did he reach out to you, or did you reach out to him? And by the way, so Dan sold Clarity to startups.co in Columbus. It used to be called Go Big Network. It was a ton of different companies all smashed together in Columbus, Ohio, where I'm at. Ironically, I've never even met Will. I should. But
yeah, he's awesome.
We're both here locally. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we met. I think we met through Launch Rocket. So Launch Rocket or launchrock.com. I was an investor in. Yeah, I invested in Launch Rock, and they exited to startups.co as well, maybe a year prior. And I got to know Will through that transaction. Will actually moved his personal home office / family to San Francisco, near me, like 6 blocks away. And we would get together probably once every 2 months, because, you know, he was trying to get to know everybody, and I had an incredible network. So I would just like organize these dinners, and Will would come and he'd meet people. And Will is just such a, like, I mean, when it comes to like business experience, I mean, he did a big roll up back in the day in like the early 2000s of like these marketing agencies. Like he rolled up like 40 or 50 of them. So when I
graduated college, I almost went and worked for him. Blue Diesel. There's a bunch
Blue
of
Diesel. Yeah, that one. Yeah. So he's just like a pure like entrepreneur. So we always connected that way. And I think he just bought the domain startups.com. So like it was startups.co. He bought startups.com, and he called me up, and they were looking for a platform that would be like their core community answers. And we had Clarity Answers. And it literally made a lot of sense. And he just called me at the perfect time. And I got to give it to Will, his negotiation, because we were going to sell to a New York firm. And the reason I ended up going with Will is he said the magic words, which is 0-day earnout. So if you ever exit a business, normally like my previous company, we negotiated a 1-year earnout, but he actually was cool acquiring the company and having me not even stay on, which was incredibly lucrative, like for a founder to like be able to exit and not like even my first company, I stayed on for a year advisor. And it was somebody I knew, like, and trusted. He promised he wouldn't mess with the product. And to his word, it was 2014 we exited. I mean, almost 8 years later, Clarity still works the way it works. They've integrated into their suite of products, and it will continue to be that way. Because
what was the biggest secret that you learned in that company? And then we got to get to like how
100%.
this ties into the book.
Well, the book is cool because like I can talk to you the stories that helped me buy back my time in every one of these companies. But the biggest growth hack that most people never knew that we perfected was we dynamically acquired experts using SlideShare. So let me break it down. In real time, if you search, let's say this is early days of Bitcoin, you came on Clarity and you search for a Bitcoin expert and we didn't have inventory, we would literally in real time send that request over to our team originally in the Philippines. They would go on SlideShare, search that term, find the top slides, go to the last slide, right? Because on SlideShare was a presentation. The last slide would have the email of the person who gave the presentation. We knew they knew about Bitcoin because their presentation was ranked the highest in SlideShare. And we literally scraped and kind of migrated experts off of SlideShare onto Clarity. Because then we had this email template saying, hey, we have a Clarity member that's willing to pay you for your time. Click the link to get connected. Well, everybody's like, I'd love to get paid for my time to talk about what I love to talk about. And that is how we built our expert network in a dynamic. We actually automated that eventually. It was called Bonjour, which is French for hello. And it was part of our engine on the back end to create liquidity in our marketplace. So even if you came in there and were like, I need to talk to direct to consumer expert around PPC or media buying, if you didn't find the expert, we would literally dynamically go on SlideShare and search these terms, find the top experts, invite them over. And then as soon as they registered, it would notify you, hey, here are 3 new experts on the topic you just searched. And it would just create matchmaker. And then we had this like answers thing. Yeah,
how did you get the people? Oh shit. Go ahead. You're about to say something.
Yeah. I was just saying like a marketplace is really like building an organism. You have like these 2 parties, the demand and the supply. And you just got to figure out like, yeah, how do you get them to kind of meet at the same time and create a great first time user experience for both, right? Like an expert wants to get a call within a day or 2 and the seeker wants to get an expert to talk to or at least interact with. So like, even though we couldn't get them on a call in the first time user experience, we'd at least push them to ask a question and then get a response and then they could call. There was like a call button within the email response. So it was really just about creating a connection and then having them communicate on platform to solve their problems.
So sick. So that was the supply. Then how did you get the people to literally know about the site? How'd you get the demand?
We had one core metric. We called it EDS, expert driven signups. Okay. So that was our North Star metric because we knew, because I talked to the guys at Airbnb, if you couldn't make the supply side generate the demand, there was no way you could pay for the demand since you're only taking 20 or 30% of the total transaction. Right. So like if we had to pay to get somebody to do a call and the call was $100, but we only made $20 or $30. Now that was if the call happened. If 50% of the time the call doesn't happen for whatever reason, timing, scheduling issues. So then like you're paying $100, like let's say you paid $30 to get a call. It's like $60 to get 2 calls to have 1 call. Just the economics didn't work, right? Like it's just pure math. It just would never work that way. So what we did is we worked with the experts and really the onboarding flow to incentivize and gamify their profiles. We told them to do free calls to build up their profiles, to get reviews. Well, those free calls drove exposure to the demand that they were sharing on Twitter. They were adding it to their email signature. Then we added Clarity.
Share it a lot.
Yep. 100%. That was, and we incentivized to do them and told them how many views their profile got. And essentially treated it as almost like a different version of like a LinkedIn profile. Like this is my status and here's all these reviews that people have called me on these topics and I've helped them and here's what they're saying. And then the Clarity answers was essentially like Quora. So like our SEO game got really good. And then we also featured experts to write articles on our blog. So we had a great kind of blog content strategy. And that was our core metric. How do we get our experts to drive more signups to our platform? And we figured like we just had to figure that out. And that's what we did.
What, and I'm excited to dive into the book, but why do you keep exiting these companies, right? Like, you know, a lot about SaaS, like you grew this, like, you know what I mean? Like after a few, are you just like, why don't you run one of these deals to get like super big? What made you always get in, get out within 24 to 48 months?
Yeah, no, there was like, I think the average is like 25 months, 26 months. I mean, the truth is Flowtown was, you know, after we rebuilt that business, we kind of pivoted into a different business model I wasn't as passionate about. I love small businesses. We pivoted into enterprise. The exit we had was perfect timing because, you know, we were break even. We could have raised another round of funding. But like I said, it's like you raise another round, like a Series A, and then you have to like go to like 100 million exit to make the same economics work, right? Because you like dilute 30-35%.
You knew the money to where the time and the money, the time to value, the time to money.
It's market risk, right? So you always got to calculate the time value. So like the question, even after we got acquired at Flowtown and I was working on Clarity on the side, the math I did in my head was, could I create more enterprise value in 16 months building this new thing than if I stayed and guaranteed my earnout? Now, what was crazy about that is I left to do Clarity, ended up raising 1.7 million on like 6 pre. So built a $7 million business within 3 months. So awesome. And I own most of the equity because I didn't have co-founders. And then like literally a month after I exited to go build Clarity, the company exited and all my stock accelerated. So I ended up getting the earnout, even though I left assuming I wouldn't. So it was kind of like this beautiful like moment in the universe, because I really believe that the world rewards courageous decisions. You know, that if you are courageous in your decisions, the world will recognize that, and you just have to have faith and you got to move forward. And then what happened was I just started investing in all these early stage SaaS companies, and turns out I'm a really good investor. So like I was early money in like Intercom and Hootsuite. Getaround just went public last week. So now what I've done since then is like, you know, I started my YouTube channel to give back and then SaaS Academy, but like the whole time I've been investing in other SaaS companies. So I've got the same
that's
economics
probably a buy
without
back
the effort.
your time secret, but what is the secret to freaking picking the good companies to invest in versus the worst?
I'll tell you, for me, it has nothing to do with the idea, although I need to feel like I can be helpful. Like I'm not going to invest in something that like I'm an idiot in. But the big thing is I just invest in people. Like when I invested in Udemy, you know, I just met Goggin and Aaron, his co-founder, and was like, these guys are going to make it work. I don't know if it's this idea or the next idea or like pivot or whatever, but like they'll win. So much so that like they actually, you know, brought in a CEO and kind of personally they've exited the business. And then Goggin went to do Sprig and I invested in Sprig. Now he's doing Maven. Like to me, I invest in the person first and foremost, especially early stage, because the idea will always morph and change. That's been true for my world as well. But what is constant is just the grit and the hustle and the tenacity that the entrepreneur has, right? And you can just tell, right? Like you can tell when you ask them, it's like, well, tell me how you've gotten to this point. And they tell you, well, you know, I did this and then this didn't work. And then I had to do this and then this. And then I'm always like, tell me a crazy story. Like, tell me something crazy. And I'm always looking for just people that are resourceful. Like, I think too often entrepreneurs are like, try to go down a path and then they hit a roadblock and they're like, oh, that's not going to work. It's like, no, I want to hear about the person that like showed up in a disguise and like got their way into the building to then ask for a meeting to get a new partnership. Like if you're just going to accept a no the first time, then you're not going to win at the level we're talking about, because it's so rare, right? Like a technology company to go from 0 to 100 million in revenue in 7 years, which is what's required. It's such rare air that you're looking for these people that don't act normal, that are willing to do abnormal things. And it's why they get to live an extraordinary life.
And when you say 0 to 107. What do you mean it's required? Talk to me about that.
The average tech company that gets to scale and exit, it's literally some kind of narrative that's 0 to 100 million in revenue, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the venture world that I came from. So if you want to raise capital to grow fast, you have to tell a story and prove it somehow that that's the trajectory you're on, right? Some people call it a triple double or whatever, but essentially it's 7 years. Now, does it take you 8 or 9? Maybe, but like the story is, we're here now, and within the next 6 years, we want to be at 100 million, and you can prove a path towards that.
That's awesome. So building these companies, exiting these companies, investing in these companies, and then also running SaaS Academy, which is awesome. You've learned a lot of secrets to success to maximize your time. What was the motivation behind putting together this book, Buy Back Your Time? Talk to us about what the book is, like how you learn these secrets. What is it about?
The reality of it is, when I moved to Silicon Valley when I was 28, right? Even though I'd exited a company and, financially, for most people's standard, I was successful. I almost like burned myself out just building that previous company. I mean, I used to be engaged to a completely different woman, and I came home one day and she just drops the ring on the counter and says like, I can't do this anymore, and like leaves. So like, even though I understood what it took to be successful, I didn't understand how to do it in a way that I could then have a high quality of life. Like there was a 6-month period where I actually asked myself,
because you were working so much.
100%. I was supposed to, it was a Sunday afternoon, and I came home at 2. I said I'd be home at 11. And she had like some party she wanted me to go with her to. And obviously we missed it. And this was not the first time I'd done this. This is like my MO. Like
right.
Yeah. And it was like the contentious, and it was crazy because I was telling myself the story of like, but I'm doing this for us and our future we're building together. And the reality is that she never asked me for that. Right. She didn't care how successful I was.
100K or 100 million. It
didn't matter. No, It wasn't. That was not her index. And so like I moved to San Francisco, and I meet these 20-some-year-old kids that learn how to build these incredible businesses. Like Travis Kalanick built, I think he went from 0 to 4,000 employees in 3 or 4 years. Like, it's just like, how do you do that? And Naval Ravikant, who was an early mentor of mine, he built the company. A lot of people know him as the guy behind AngelList, but he built several other startups in the Valley when I met him, and he was investing in companies. And he's the one that taught me about leverage. The constant time is a constant, right? Like we all have the same amount of time. And then there's the multiplication around leverage, and then there's an output. And that output size is directly correlated to your ability to know how to use leverage. And there's only 4 types of leverage. You call them the 4 C's, right? There's content, which is this, right? You shoot this one episode, it can be consumed 10 million times, huge leverage. Code, software, automation, huge leverage. I mean, there's billion-dollar companies today that run off of 100 employees. Third is capital. We all know it, like raise capital, invest in our business. And then the combined output is something that could be 3, 4, 5, 10 times more valuable. And then the fourth is collaboration. This is the people side of thing. And what I've discovered is the way the Valley looks at collaboration and leverage, they pretty much, it's like a math formula, right? Like once you understand your buyback rate, which is essentially like the income you make per hour divided by 4, because then you're essentially trying to get a 4 times ROI on that dollar amount. Then you look at your calendar, and I talk about in the book this thing called the buyback loop, which is audit, transfer, fill. Anytime you hit the pain line, right, where you feel like you're at your capacity and growing anymore would just create chaos in your life, right? Because entrepreneurs will not grow into pain. Then you have to do the buyback loop. And the buyback loop is audit, transfer, fill. Audit your calendar for energy and costs. Like, what are the things that suck your energy that cost the least amount to get out of your calendar? Take all that stuff and transfer it to somebody else. That's the second step, transfer. And I use this methodology called the camcorder method, but essentially there's a skill that has to be developed on how to get things off of your plate where you still feel in control. And then the third is fill, right? It's what do you do with that free time? See, a lot of people make the mistake of like hiring an executive assistant or a new person on their team, and then they just chill out, right? They don't actually fill it with things that light them up, that make them more money. But that's the loop. That's the process. You literally, to the degree that you're growing your life and your business, you need to be walking through the buyback loop. Like I probably do it today every 4 months because I'm like expanding where I'm continuously auditing my calendar, transferring stuff off my plate to people on my team, buying back my time. I mean, my world looks different than when people are just starting off, but like I literally have a dedicated executive assistant that manages my corporate like kind of timeline. And then I have a house manager that manages all my personal assets and my vehicles and my like everything in our house. Like literally if my wife or I would have to do it, she takes care of that. And then that way I can show up and do things that light me up that only I can do, like using my unique ability. And to the degree that I do that and increase my buyback rate, then it means next year or in 6 months, I get to buy back more time. And that's why like the subtitle of the book is actually like not the 4-hour work week. It's get unstuck, reclaim your freedom, and build your empire. Because my mission is to help entrepreneurs create more, to build their empire more, to be more of an artist, right? Not be the blocker of their expression, which is what happens. Most people get to about a dozen employees, $1 million in revenue, and they hate it. And it's totally normal because they keep hiring people to do all the stuff, and then 100%. They get stuck with all the crap, right?
Let's have you coach me on buy back your time right now. So let's just say 100 million, you know, and we've got nearly 500 employees. My wife and I'm the CEO. She's the COO. We work like 7 days a week. I'm working 15, 18 hours a day. She's close to that. Now we always take breaks and do shit in between, but you're always on, especially if like you and your partner run the biz. How would you coach me to like create more scale leverage? What are the strategies?
Yeah. Step one, it's audit, transfer, fill. So we would start by doing a time and energy audit in your calendar. So for a 2-week period, you would log everything that you're currently doing. If you're disciplined enough to have it in your calendar, great. Most people are not. So every 15-minute timer goes off, you log it in your like a journal. Then once you've got the 2-week log,
intervals
every 15 minutes. Yeah. Most people do not realize where they waste time and energy. You talked about, you know, just the drinking and what I call the self-medicator. There's 5 time assassins that I talk about in the book that like doesn't cost anything. It's literally self-inflicted assassins. You invite them into your life, and the self-medicator is one of them. So we log everything in the calendar.
Keep going.
Highlight in red anything that takes your energy. Highlight in green anything that gives you energy, and then put a $sign to $4 next to it based on how much it would cost to pay somebody else to do. And if your wife's on board with this as well, she does the same thing. Then you grab everything in your guys' list that's red, that's $1 sign or $2 signs, and you put it into a pile. And that is your hit list for hiring somebody to get that out of your life. And that's how we start, because essentially what you want to do is you want to buy back the time of things that suck energy and that are low cost so that you can fill it back up with things that produce energy for you that have value to your business. So you might not even realize that you're saying yes to going and picking up dinner or cleaning your house or putting together some new stuff you guys just bought off the internet or mowing your lawn. Like all these people don't even realize where their time and energy goes. And once you audit it, you'll be like, okay, we got to stop doing these things. And instead I'm going to do more biz dev, or I'm going to do better hiring. Cause that's
took me a while to teach my wife. Like, by the way, because I love this.
We try not to teach her wives stuff. We just, I try
like,
to just be by example, like literally just live my life and invite them and find other people that they might admire to explain them those things. Because like, you're right. Most women I coached, and I coach quite a few women, they have fear around guilt, around what their mom's going to think. They have fear. They have guilt around like, do I deserve this? Like, I don't, or it's like just uncomfortable. Like, I don't like having somebody in the house, right? Like some people, women specifically, because I don't have this problem at all, zero. Like I don't clean my house to get ready for my house cleaner to show up. But this is what every woman typically does. She literally, the house cleaning's coming and then she cleans the house before they show up because they don't want to feel judged for having a messy house. Yeah, it's
I
like,
totally get it though.
Yeah. So like there's some beliefs, and that's why the book I attack the 5 time assassins.
That. Be like, and I think a lot of people don't understand. Like I was at a dinner yesterday with a bunch of people, and I was just talking about how the material shit that you think you want actually causes more tech debt and stress. The time assassins, the car, I know you and I both have sports cars, but we probably had a lot more sports cars. And I realized that they were all time assassins. Multiple houses are time assassins. Like, I love the fact that I've got a driver, a chef, and a house manager, and also a work assistant, like a work manager, because it just helps you just
it's quality of life.
Quality of life.
A lot of people see Richard Branson and they're like, Richard Branson's the billionaire other billionaires want to be like. And you don't need to wait until you have that kind of net worth to actually like give yourself permission to have support in your life. So that, like, for me at 4:00 in an hour, I'm going to get a protein shake. Like, I just put my hand out and it shows up and I drink my protein shake so that I have the energy to keep going, to be present for my kids.
Is always making sure you've got 3 protein shakes or whatever.
They take care of all of it.
Yeah,
literally, I know in the cupboard behind me, there's gum, toothpicks, and bottles of water. That's protocol. And that's present in every one of my vehicles, next to my bed. Like, when you start just making decisions once and then having other people support you, like, you realize how much mental waste goes into just maintaining this stuff, that you just let other people do it and show up and do the thing only you can do. Only you and I can be on this call. Like, this is your podcast and I'm your guest. Like, I can't outsource this stuff.
And I think you came up with this thing. You said, what was the calculator deal? Like,
buyback rate.
The buyback rate. Talk to me. What is how do we calculate our buyback rate?
Take your income, whatever you make per year, salary distribution.
Everyone always wants to make $1 million.
If their income, now it's not gross. It's actually like what you pay yourself. So how much money do you take home in profit, distribution, salary? And then I even throw in like discretionary expenses, because most people don't like paying taxes. So they'll put a bunch of stuff in there that's not like really needed to run the business. If you take that amount of money and you call it even 500,000 a year, right? Yeah. In kind of income, divide it by the numbers 2,000, because that's the amount of hours in a year. That'll at least tell you what essentially I call your effective hourly rate. Like, what is your value of an hour of your time? Now, that's not your buyback rate, because you're not going to want to do a one-to-one trade. If your hourly rates, in that scenario, it'd be like, I think $400 an hour or something like that. Or no, it'd be like 200. No, it's 200. I think it's 200. Yeah. 200 an hour. You're not going to pay somebody 200 an hour to like do stuff, but you can pay somebody $50 and that's a quarter. So you divide your hourly effective hourly rate by 4, because you want a 4 times ROI. So anything that I look at my calendar and I measure it and I take all the red stuff and the $1 sign or $2 signs. I'm like, okay, half my calendar today, I can pay somebody else to do this stuff for $50 an hour. If you're doing it today, then it's mathematically impossible for you to grow your business, because you're not getting leverage, right? And the thing I always tell people is, $10 million companies were not built off $10 tasks. It's mathematically impossible. You just can't work that much. You need to have leverage, and you need to find it in one of those 4 formats. And collaboration is the most approachable to most people, right? Other than capital, code, and content.
What are some, and I love that buyback rate. Talk to me about these 5 time assassins.
Yeah. The 5-time assassins, I mean, there's different ones, but there's like the penny pincher, the person that's like, I mean, I tell this story in the book. I had a friend of mine that runs like a very successful mastermind, 20 grand a year. He was doing probably 3 million in revenue, and he was having an issue with his curriculum. And I told him the person that I hired that fixed my problem, that like solved the thing. It was like 10 grand to hire this guy. And his response was, does he have a book? Like, does he have like a $20 book I can buy? And I was just like, but that's the mental, right? Like, he didn't even understand. You're sitting, and he ended up shutting it down. So he had almost a $3 million mastermind. He had a problem that could have been solved for 10 grand. And because he had a weird belief, that assassin came in and took away the vehicle, right? Like, he decided to go work on something else. So there's the micromanager, right? Like, there's a lot of people that, even if they had the financial means, and most of them do, to delegate and have other people help them, they get anxiety. They're control freaks. They hold on to stuff. They suffocate their team. They frustrate their team. Right. So like, that's another time assassin. There's the self-medicator, which I used to be big time. You know, anytime something good happened, I would celebrate. Anytime something bad happened, I would self-medicate. And when you just look at all these different time assassins, they cost nothing. And it's like level one. That's why the time and energy audit is so important, because a lot of it is not expensive and it's just decisions to stop doing stuff. Like, some people go to too many meetings and they don't even know it. It's like, hey, instead of doing 4 different meetings, could you do one meeting and just like coordinate the leaders and then have them go off and do the rest of it, right? Do you really need to spend 5 hours of meetings a week around that topic, right? And like, to me, that's like the biggest opportunity. But then when you get advanced stuff, like you're talking about, you know, a driver and a chef and all these things, like, then all of a sudden, or an executive assistant. Like, I have this framework in the book called the replacement ladder. And there's 5 levels to doing it. But level 1 is an executive assistant. If you don't have an assistant, you actually do have one. It's you, and you're an expensive assistant, right? Like, that's the reality. And the filter for me, if you're doing that at 10 out of 10, is you don't manage your inbox and you don't manage your calendar. Those 2 things cannot be true. You cannot, any email that comes to you has to be managed by somebody else initially. And the calendar cannot be managed by you. You need to collaborate with this person. But I don't own my calendar. I wake up, you know, the night before I go to bed, I look at my calendar. It's been designed and scheduled and structured. And, you know, while I'm on this call, meetings get put in. If something gets canceled, she knows how to fill it back up. And it's like every minute I dedicate to work is going to be the most powerful time dedicated to work. And when I'm with the family, I'm with the family. And because I've designed the rhythms of my life and they know how to map to those rhythms, there's no like things I got to fix, because the rhythms are designed. So I like have date night every week and time with my kids every week and family
the one thing
days.
that I love about your stuff, like, which is why I'm so excited you wrote this book, Buy Back Your Time. You, like, on social media, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere, like, I feel like you have just as much content shooting, working as you do play. So I'm always like, man, Dan's got something figured out, where it's like half of his time is family, friends, chill, doing what he loves personally. And then the other half is like doing what he loves professionally. What's the secret there?
It's buying back your time. I literally do one of 2 things. I either spend time with people I enjoy spending time with, or I work on things only I can do. And the cool part is that's typically all the same thing. So it's like, I'll take business meetings on my wake surfing boat, or I host a snowboarding trip or a mountain biking trip, and these are business partners or entrepreneurs that I coach or whatever. And it's like, it's all integrated, and it's what I love to do anyway, without feeling like I'm sacrificing. As soon as I actually end up doing anything for 3 months that feels like work, that's like on my hit list, because it's red, and I just hire somebody to take it over. And I'm just really unemotional about getting stuff off my plate.
And I know we're running into time. Dan and I have both been up since 4:30 a.m. So he's probably getting tired. He's got to drink a protein shake. Real quick. We've got the find the book. You can find the book on Amazon, right?
Buy Back Your Time. Yeah, but go to buybackyourtime.com, because I've got a ton of templates, scripts, and blueprints I want to give you. And that's the only place to get those.
So to get the bonuses, go to buybackyourtime.com, pick up the book. This thing's live January 16th.
17th. It goes live. Yeah.
You can pre-order it now, though. I pre-ordered it. A bunch of people I know pre-ordered it. Go pre-order it. And then we've got rapid fire questions, whatever comes right to your mind, Dan. What are the books that have greatly influenced your life?
Love is a Killer App by Tim Sanders. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. Never Eat Alone, Keith Ferrazzi.
What are the habits that change your life?
Sweat every day, gratitude every day, hydrate every day, and then just asking yourself a positive question to refocus your attention whenever you feel anything.
What are the failures that taught you the most about life?
My fiance leaving me when I was building my first company. Getting shut down by Facebook was a big one. Pretty much all the biggest challenges. Yeah, just trying to be a great husband and a father and an entrepreneur. I mean, just like trying to integrate that life.
If you go back in time to your 20-year-old self, what advice would you give?
Have more faith than fear.
What do you do when you feel lost, stuck, and unmotivated?
I always go to service. So I literally ask myself, who needs my best work today? And I offer it out, and I get on calls, and I try to make it not about me and make it about other people. Contribution.
One of the last ones. What's your biggest return on investment? Could be an investment of money, time, energy, anything.
Health, 100% health.
Last one. Where can people go to connect with you for more?
Instagram /Dan Martell, 2000 Martell. Follow me, my stories, and then I'm on all social platforms. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter or TikTok, I'm there.
Awesome. Dan, thank you so much for the time. Congrats on Buy Back Your Time, buybackyourtime.com. Pick up the book, get the secrets from Dan Martell, Mr. SaaS Academy himself. Congratulations on all of your success. I can't wait to see this book positively impact me, my wife, our team, everyone out there, entrepreneurs, salespeople, marketers, recruiters. Guys, pick up the book. Don't forget to follow Dan on Instagram. And thank you for tuning in to this episode of Sales Secrets with your host, Brandon Bornancin.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you for listening to Sales Secrets with Brandon Bornancin. If you enjoyed the show, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss an episode that drops on the daily. Your success is our success.